What's up, YouTube? Back with another Sunday commentary. And today, I'm talking about the park, and more specifically, did the park ruin 2K? Or the rest of 2K, I should say. And to be honest, it kind of did. And I don't hate the park. You know, the park, it could be fun, especially with your friends. And it definitely did help 2K become more popular. It got more people into the game. And when you compare it to the other sports games, it did it the best as far as being able to create a player, play through a career, and take that player online and play against other players so seamlessly. No other sports game really did it better, so I give 2K credit for that. But at the same time, the popularity of the park really came at the expense of the rest of the game. Not only is it because of all of the time and resources they spend trying to perfect the mode, but it also changed the way how they approach making the game and a lot of the design decisions that they make for the game, which is the biggest reason I feel like Park ruined the rest of 2K. And 2K has always had its problems even before Park existed, but I feel like Park really amplifies those problems because you have so much control over, you know, the ratings, the animations, the badges, and you can really take advantage of things that you really weren't supposed to be able to take advantage of. But since you have so much control over all that stuff, you can take advantage of those things. And it's at a point where 2K can't just let it happen. Like, they actually have to address it. But the problem is that it affects the rest of the game. So you look at shooting, every year they always have to do something drastic with the shooting, and it's not because of what happens in Play Now or My Team, it's because of what happens on the park. When you look at 2K20 and 2K21 shooting, in 2K20 at some point people started to complain that you were able to make shots with like a 60, 50, sometimes even 40 3-point rating. And so when 2K21 came out, you basically couldn't shoot unless you were a play shot with like a 95 3. But the problem is that it affected the entire game, and that's a perfect example of Park really amplifying a problem to the point where they actually had to address it. Because every year, whether it's Play Now, My Team, like regular 5v5 modes, there's always players that don't have the highest rating and don't have like the best badges, but they have a really good jump shot, so you're able to make some shots with them. Maybe not as low as a 60, but you're able to do things that you probably feel like you weren't able to do. But it wasn't at a point where they had to completely overhaul the shooting because of it. But when you look at it from the park perspective, again, you could pick the jump shot, you can pick the badges, you can play My Career on Rookie or Pro and get hot zones, you can have a teammate with Hall of Fame floor general and dimer. So at that point, making shots with a 60 or even 50 rating isn't that hard anymore. So now you actually have to address it because literally anybody can do it, especially nowadays where you got YouTube, Twitch, Reddit, Twitter. Everybody is so connected and there's so much information about the game. You can't just leave it alone. Like, you actually have to address it in some way. We even look at shooting this year compared to last year. They added green or miss, which I personally don't really mind. I actually prefer green or miss. But you also have all these different release timings, which I feel like was a setting that made more sense of controlling one jump shot. But you also have all these different load ups depending on how you catch the ball, your contest, your stamina level. And I felt like these things weren't added to give the game more realism. I felt like they were added to curb shooting on the park. But again, it affected the whole game. And you also look at the dribbling. Now you have these adrenaline boost bars and you just lose a lot more stamina for doing dribble moves. And it was to address guards dribbling too much and not really losing stamina on the park, but it affected the whole game. And now I can't even use certain plays that have too much movement because by the time the player gets the ball, they'll be too tired to even shoot. And there are even plays that you don't think the player should be getting tired from, but they do. Like, I could call a play for Klay Thompson. He'll be in a corner, he runs up to the top of the key, now he has a half a bar of stamina just for running for 2 seconds. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but that's what happens when you're so focused on addressing things in one game mode but having it affect the whole game. And at this point, I feel like Park should just be its own game. I don't know how they would do that, but it just can't coexist with the rest of the game. And the way they think about making the park and the gameplay changes or ideas and mechanics, how people expect the mode to be played, doesn't really apply to the rest of the game, and vice versa. So it's just getting hard for everything to coexist. And on top of that, you got the whole arcade versus sim debate. Should the game be more arcadey? Should the game be more sim? Should it be somewhere in the middle? People have so many different opinions on it, and this wasn't even a debate before the park got popular. Like, 2K made its name off of trying to be realistic, but once the park got popular and became the dominant mode, it really started to become a debate And again, there's so many different opinions about it. Some people feel like Park should be arcadey, but 5v5 should be realistic. Everything should be arcadey. Everything should be realistic. And so I feel like 2K is just having an identity crisis. Like, they don't know what direction to take the game. They don't know who to listen to. So they try to do both and nobody ends up being happy. And I personally feel like they should just pick a side. I don't mind when a game is made for a certain demographic of people, because even though it might not be for everybody, the people that it is for, they will love it. But given the state of basketball games in general, 2K can't really do that because they're the only basketball game on the market, so they can't go too far in one direction. They kind of have to, well, maybe not have to, but it's definitely in their best interest to appeal to as many people as they can. And the only way that's going to change is if there's another game. And this was one of the many reasons why people look back at mid-2000s PS2 era gaming as a great era of gaming, is because we have variety. All genres of game had variety, but since we talk about 2K, we had a lot of basketball game variety. 2K tried to be the more realistic sim type game. Live was kind of somewhere in the middle, and then you had games like NBA Street, NBA Jam. Not NBA Jam. NBA Jam was before, like way before that, but NBA Ballers. Those games were on the arcade side, and so you were able to choose the experience you wanted to have, whereas nowadays you don't have that option. And it's no secret that they spend so much time and resources on the park experience, but again, it's coming at the expense of the rest of the game. There could be a lot of modes and features that could be in the game but aren't. So things like a standalone all-star weekend mode, a better and revamped practice mode. This year they had the Jordan challenges, which was good, but that could be something that they could do every year. Maybe not with like a certain player, but you could take the best moments of the previous season and make them into moments. I remember Madden used to do something like that. They used to call it Madden moments. It's things like that. A lot of the settings, especially like the defensive settings, need to be reworked. Half of them don't even work, and a lot of them could use a lot better like explanations and stuff like that. And so I feel like the game lacks modes and features and quality of life things, as well as just actual basketball stuff that I feel like would be in the game if so much time wasn't dedicated to the park experience. And a lot of these things were in previous 2Ks or just in previous sports games. And so yeah, like I said, I don't hate the park. I just hate that its success came at the expense of the rest of the game, especially if you're a player that's not really into park. Like outside of my team, there's not really much here, especially if you're an offline player. And I feel like there could be so many different modes and features and things to do if they wasn't so invested in the park experience every year. And that's actually another video that I was planning to do, talking about like a lot of different modes and features that either used to be in a game or that could be in a game but they aren't. And even in this video, there's a lot of other things I could have talked about, but I didn't want to make the video too long. So just let me know how y'all feel in the comments, and as always, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more content.